Dropping the green flag on racing and motorsports coverage. It's Revved Up ATX from the Horn, where Austin talks racing. From the short tracks to the super speedways, from 2 wheels to 4 wheels, it's Revved Up ATX on the Horn with Bobby Chaffee and Rodney Rodriguez. This is where Austin talks racing.
It's where Austin, it's where Texas, and everybody talks racing. Revved Up Sports Show, Revved Up ATX, whichever you want to call it. We are live on the Revved Up Sports Show page as well as on 104.9 The Horn back in Austin, the flagship home there of Texas Athletics. Live from Texas Motor Speedway, Bobby Chaffee, Rodney Rodriguez. Not a Chamber of Commerce day, Bobby, but I can tell you one thing. It's funny. So we get here. We make the trip early this morning. We leave Round Rock. We get here. Not a lot happening. I love the abbreviated schedule. I got to tell you, especially with the way the weather was yesterday. It's cool now. It's in the 70s. But, man, I like the later start.
Well, you can definitely tell when they opened up the gates here. When it turned on, when everything turned on here about 1:30-ish, right in there, it's like a bunch of ants. It's like somebody stamped on the ant mound because there are people everywhere versus when we got here this morning, it was dead.
Yeah, it really was. There wasn't a lot happening here, and the races this evening at 7. You'll have the All-Star race coming up at 4:30, I believe it is, so you'll have that as well, all of that on FS1, but it really is starting to be a plethora of activity. You've got a concert there with Blake Shelton coming up. We'll talk about the details of that. we'll talk about the details of that one.
Concert will be there. Maybe not so many fans. Concert will be there.
You'll be able to hear it, I guess would probably be the thing to tell people if you're here at the track, but all of that coming up in this preview show. We'll take you through the weekend, everything that we've watched so far with the trucks. Really good Xfinity race that we saw yesterday. And, of course, the All-Star, just a different format that we had. And our friend Sugar Sean Folsom checked in and kind of gave us a little some pictures right there. You had the tree there for the drag or for the qualifying, the way that they were doing all of that. The Dallas Cowboy cheerleaders were here as well. They'll be here tonight as well. They'll probably be knocking on our door here for too long.
Yeah, before too long. I mean, we said they could come in for any media availability that they had, so maybe they'll respond. Who knows? Well, we might get lucky today.
Not holding my breath, my friend. Not holding my breath. But it really is. It's getting extremely busy out here. And with Texas Motor Speedway, it's always been something that they've done here for the 25, 26 years, whatever it's been, where they do it exceptionally well. I mean, it's a great presentation. There's lots of stuff to do here for folks. Even if it's racing's maybe not your forte, there are things for you to do here at the track today.
Yeah, there's already got the fan zones up and running. The driver appearances started there. A couple of them started at a little after 1 o'clock, but various times throughout the day, there's some Chevrolet drivers that are going to be out and about in the driver zone today. I think it was A.J. Allmendinger, Austin Dillon. I think Tyler Reddick is up on the schedule right now. Plenty of drivers at the Ford display that's here. You'll see the Ford drivers in and out throughout the day. I'm sure there's a Toyota display where some of the Toyota drivers will come up and interact. We've seen it on the days with the laid-back schedule where the drivers interact a little bit more. We saw it in the media center this morning. We're right there about noon-ish, 12:30. That's when everybody started waking up and this media center started coming alive. And same thing with the drivers. We started seeing more drivers and golf carts come to different events at the media center. So they did a lot of interaction yesterday with the little mini not pit bulls, bullpen.
Yeah.
Bullpen stuff yesterday where they're able to come in and break up into smaller groups for all the guys that qualified for the All-Star race. So lots of interaction here, no different than normal, but I think you just get that little bit of extra interaction when the race starts so late.
And you think about the fascinating thing about this for the folks that maybe new that are checking in on one of the two pages is it's a race like you will typically see. I mean, it's the same concept. You're going to have stages in here. There's different ways that this race is going to break down, but there's $1 million on the line right here, and we were talking about this on the way up here this morning. I mean, it's one thing. The $1 million is one thing, but the bragging rights is something else. else. I mean, it doesn't really matter. A variation of an all-star, whatever you want to call it. I mean, the Pro Bowl is kind of the Pro Bowl is what it is for the NFL, and the NBA All-Star Game. It's like no defense, everybody's just shooting. The baseball All-Star Game. I mean, at one point, I think there was a reason for the relevancy of it, but this is a different thing right here. But what's going to be interesting to watch with this one, of course, we are with the new car. And remember, there's not a lot of inventory with this new car. And a lot of teams in the past have always said, this is kind of the throwaway race. If you get out there, you tear something up, that's okay. We go to Charlotte, we got plenty of cars. That's not the case right now.
Well, the good news is that with the limited number of cars, they're able to use this as a test session.
Yeah.
For sure. Some of the guys in the Open were talking about it beforehand where, they don't know necessarily if they can qualify for the All-Star race. So we were talking about on the way up here, a normal race starts 36 at a minimum. You're going to have 24 guys starting the All-Star race this year, so still a pretty unique full field. But a lot of the teams that you've got 4 or 5 teams that have the ability to win this thing tonight.
And
that's it.
Right. And I think one of the things that you mentioned right there is because we're getting into the meat of the schedule right now, where Charlotte is next week with the 600. We're going to get into a run now to where we're really going to hit the mile and a half, because you can move the mile and a half. You can split them out. You can do whatever you want to do, but predominantly on that schedule, it's a lot of mile and a halves. So if you get your stuff working right on a mile and a half racetrack, and this is a very glorified practice opportunity for teams to get ready for Charlotte, to get ready for all of the other mile and a half tracks that you're going to see later on in the year. And this is going to be a really good time. And I think it is something that we talked about, to where it's like, yeah, we kind of diminish it to where we were saying this morning, hell, all the teams are here. I mean, you're only going to have 22, but all the other ones are here too. But I do like it in the sense that everybody's going to get some track time and make them better as they continue to develop this Generation 7 car.
Yeah, and it definitely still needs development. I mean, it's come a long way from where it was back at the Clash. You can only do so many. It's like we talk about when you put somebody in from a backup role into a game, right? It's game speed you can't simulate in practice. It's the same thing showing up at a race. This live race pace, the car had some issues with some tie rods and tires and stuff, and ride heights and stuff when the season first started, because it needed some real world game time testing, and they've since adjusted. A little bit of issue last week there at Kansas with some left rears going down and having some issues there.
It came up again.
It came up again, but they were trying to push the 8 ball a little bit on that deal.
That's really the key, and I see a lot of people. It just really seems like the nature of a race fan or a racing enthusiast is, boom, you want to go to, no, the concept does not work, the one lug nut thing, and Lord knows I was the biggest advocate of it or the detractor of it for a long time, but what you really do, it is, the teams are their own worst enemies. I mean, because you get in here, it is the mindset, it is the mentality of a race team, a racer, whatever it is, that you want to get in there and you want to push the gray area and you want to massage as much as you can on these things, and it doesn't matter the component. I mean, it used to be where you talked about, you would massage the bodies up and do all these different things to try to get that downforce and all of the aero that was so important with the Gen 6 car and some of the cars prior to that one. But now you get into this car to where it's not so much of that. I mean, we heard it on the radio this morning where they talked about this car can take a beating. But that's where they get in there and they try to manipulate, and not in a bad way. You try to make yourself better by doing different things. But I think something that was interesting that we'll really need to focus in with this race is what we heard this morning as well, to where the car is a beast. The car is a tank. You go lick it on the fence and you're going to be fine. Very brittle. And we talked about that at COTA, to where you start hitting bumps and so forth. But when you're out here rubbing on each other for, however many laps this is, and with $1 million on the line, you're going to bend some stuff up, and your stuff is not going to run right after that happens.
Yeah, the body can take the beating is what we found out, because it's the same. It's not the exact same body as the Xfinity Series, but it's the same kind of construction with the flange fit body. It's designed to bend a little bit.
Sure.
With the Gen 6 car with the metal bodies and everything that came through it that way, you barely touched the fence. Your aero was gone.
Absolutely.
And you'd slice a tire. Now you can bounce it off the fence, and unless you tear up the rear end, the independent rear suspension, which still needs help in everybody's minds.
Of course, yeah.
You can bang it off the wall and be okay, but when you start banging it off the wall with other cars next to you and they start throwing the laps away, that's when the car can't handle it. We saw it in the Xfinity Series race yesterday. We're definitely going to see it in the race tonight.
Yeah, we will. And something that's going to be key tonight, I think it's a huge story. I haven't heard a lot of conversation about it, but it really is kind of a no-brainer, because we have been here yesterday. Track conditions the last 2 days have been I'm assuming track conditions probably 110, 120 degrees
easily.
Yeah, with the heat, because we've had ambient temperatures of in the 90s. I mean, it has been a sauna up in this place. And now you wake up this morning, high temperature is going to be maybe 71, maybe 72 degrees. You've got the PJ1, you've got the slick stuff that's on the racetrack to where they're trying to widen out and make more racing grooves, and that's the concept of that. But that grip now, as you change, as you go, 20 degrees makes a hell of a lot of difference on the racetrack, and I think that's going to be a story moving forward, because as we get later into this, I don't think we'll see it so much in the open, because that's at 4:30. But when we get to 7 o'clock, dude, it's going to be. It's not going to be cold, but you got a breeze blowing up in this place, I guess, from the north, and it's going to play havoc with some of the setups. All the work that they did the last couple of days getting set for tonight, and that's why I love that so much of this stuff happens during the day, because you get to racing at night, and it's a whole different ballgame.
Yeah, qualifying was considerably different. A 20-degree track difference, air temperature and track temperature versus what they qualified and practiced for last night. And I really think that, like you said, the problem with the PJ1 in going into turn number 1 with the lesser bank down there, they have no problems in 3 and 4 going to run wide open, whether it's 100 degrees or 80 degrees that it would be tonight. If you end up having that down in turn number 1, it's heat activated.
Absolutely.
But there's not a lot of heat on the racetrack. That could cause a problem. Turn 1 and 2 could be more of a center one groove, maybe a lane and a half coming out of turn number 2, which is tight as it is already. You're going to see some action out of turn number 2. Going into 3 and 4, they were wide open last night during practice when it was hotter, so I have no doubt with the extra grip they'll get with the lower temperatures tonight, wide open in 3 and 4.
And that really is one of the differences that there's been lots of different correlations and changes that have happened here at Texas Motor Speedway over the last decade to try to enhance competition, whatever it may be. And this racetrack is one where it is very different. At one corner, I think you've got 28-degree banking, you got 24 at the other one. So what works on the south end is not going to necessarily be what's going to be your best your best set or whatever it may be on the south end or whatever, north versus south. Truly, when it comes to this racetrack, and it does go into, you're going to factor into the new car. I mean, we've seen them on the track, we've seen them practicing, but we haven't seen them in door-to-door competition. But what this car has really done, and what I'm really optimistic about tonight, is through the season so far, and the season's early, but we've been to some places where competition has lacked a little bit, and it's been something circled on the schedule to where, like, oh man, we're going to wherever. This place has kind of been one of those. So I'm hoping that what we're going to see tonight is this car is going to give us some competition that we haven't seen here in a while.
Well, if you think about it, the tracks that we used to circle on the calendar for stuff that's going to be really exciting and really action-packed, Richmond, Martinsville, those races were kind of dull and boring. Of course, they were also at night with a little bit. You're going to see this car was designed to make the racing at the mile and a half better. Tonight's the night for this car to shine, and it needs to at this place.
You said it so well yesterday on the show. We talked about that, and you can catch that show at hornfm.com, to where they do. I mean, this race and this track need each other desperately right now. And if you can get a lot of eyeballs on it, I think the promotion has been good. But if you can get enough eyeballs on this thing, and it delivers. That's the big part. It has to deliver. These segments are short. There's other, and we'll talk about it later. There's other. I don't want to say antics, but there's other things that'll factor in. We're going to start having the pit crews involved and so forth. But you have to. This is an opportunity with what could potentially be a good amount of eyeballs on this, to where, I mean, it's not going to be a clash scenario where you come out here and, I mean, if we have 4 wide across the line at the end of it, you're not going to have near the eyeballs on it. I wouldn't think. I mean, I wish, that you had there with that event. But this is something to where it. I would hope that this produces something tonight to where we get to the playoffs and people that haven't come here in a while see the race tonight and they're like, hey, after that, I want to go back to TMS.
And I think that's what the race is designed for.
Absolutely.
Obviously, it was more of as bad as it sounds, although nothing official, but it makes sense that where the All-Star race here at TMS, going away from Charlotte and Bristol, was more of a consolation prize for TMS for letting the spring race go to COTA.
Right.
That's the realistic scenario of it. Last year, the All-Star race here was okay. It wasn't completely chaos. It wasn't completely great either. It was an okay race. Kyle Larson loved it because he walked away with $1 million.
That's always good.
That's always a plus. But I think the way for this place to be exciting, you don't have to have that one hot summer night finish where you have the wreckers to the checkers and stuff like that. But I think it just needs to be competitive, and it needs to be competitive 1st through 5th, not 3rd through 8th.
Exactly. Yeah. I mean, it just really needs to produce some good. And the thing about it is, what I really hope doesn't happen, that has happened here a lot in the past. I mean, just bottom line is, you get a guy that just checks out and takes off, and if that starts to happen, I mean, you've got the yellows that are going to happen and dial it all in, and we're going to have great restarts. Mm-hmm. I mean, that's the one thing that we can guarantee you is when we come out of yellows or we come out of segments or stages, that you're going to have at least 3 good laps of that, but it needs to, in these 25 lap segments, we need about 15 good laps.
Yeah, really, we do.
We need about 15 good laps. We don't need 2 or 3. And it, I don't know, man, it's where, as we've gone through the season, we've watched, there's been variations of where at one point it looked like the Chevrolets, were the ones, and then Toyota with a really good outing, the last couple of times out. I mean, maybe it's Ford's time, but this is where, in a perfect world, if we could get all those OEMs hitting on all 8 cylinders, pardon the pun, tonight, my goodness, man, that would be massive for the race and the racetrack.
It'd be massive, but Ford's got a whole lot of work to do before they're able to do that.
That's right.
They've got a lot of work. They were not very impressive with the 11th place finish last week from Austin Cindric. That's the first time a Ford has not been in the top 10 at a mile-and-a-half racetrack since like 2012, 2013, something like that. So that's been a long time. Ford needs to get their act together. They're definitely not performing like they should, especially on the mile-and-a-half, which was actually kind of surprising.
Yeah. I really thought I've expected a little bit more. I've expected a little bit more out of that. But so we can talk about the All-Star race. We'll give you the lineup and kind of break down some of the dynamics of that and kind of our thoughts on who to watch right there. Again, it's a very open playing field. But prior to that, speaking of the Open, you do have the All-Star Open, which that format for that, you'll have 20 laps. Stage 1 will be 20 laps. Stage 2 is going to be 20 laps. And then the final stage, you'll have a 10-lap segment right there. Out of that first stage, the winner will advance over. So you're going to have, 3? You get 3 that are going to check out of there, and that's where you have the rest of the field. And
the fan vote winner.
And the fan vote winner.
That's where you get your 24.
And we have watched in the last, again, we'll go back to the last decade or so of this race, because we were talking about this on the show yesterday, to where, I mean, I ain't going to blow smoke up anybody's skirt. This All-Star race has lost its luster. I mean, you try to live up to the one hot summer night. You try to live up to the Waltrip and Rusty Wallace and all of those different things. You try to live up to that, and it just hadn't been there. And we've seen different things thrown at this to where to make it appealing, to build the excitement. But we've seen a lot of the best racing in the Open.
And it has been. I think what it does is it showcases the lesser-funded teams. And when we say lesser funded, we talk about it all the time. You're still talking $10, $15 million, $10 to $15 million, anywhere from 5 to 15 generally is the average for the lower funded teams to race on a season. It gets them a chance to be seen. It gets them a chance to be heard. The Open race has been really good in the past, and we've seen it. William Byron won one year, but Bubba Wallace, beating and banging, got into the All-Star race one year. And so you get a chance to see it with these other teams that get a chance to showcase what they have, and that's always a good thing when you see the new players that you don't normally see.
And I think where it's really cool this year, because we've seen in the past, I mean, Michael Waltrip, way back in the 90s, he got out of the Open and made it to the race, and then won the All-Star race there for the Wood Brothers. I mean, it's happened. It's very possible to happen, but I think we're in a very good, kind of just correlating back to what we've been talking about, we're in a very, very good place this year with this car, with this package, with the unknowns of everything, to where you could get. I mean, Tyler Reddick wins yesterday. I mean, Tyler Reddick, Daniel Suarez, Dillon. There are a lot of guys that are in this open field that if they can get their way into that race, they will compete. They will. Whoever gets out of the Open is going to compete at some form or fashion in the All-Star race. May not be for first, but they will be competitive.
Well, you get the track time, you get live stats, right? You get to get the live feel of what the track is going to do. That's why the guys that come out of the Open have generally done fairly well in the All-Star race, because you get the same thing. Live game practice, live game speed.
Reps.
You get to see what the track is going to be at the time. You'll get a better chance to take a swing at it because you were just out on the racetrack. So I think that's good. That's why the guys at the Open tend to run fairly well, because they don't start from scratch, just like the guys that are parked right now, the 20 guys that have already locked themselves in.
Yeah, green and yellow laps will count in that race. And the thing about it is to put yourself in the best position, you go out and you win stage 1 of the Open and you're done. I mean, that's it. You're locked in. And then everybody else goes to stage 2, same thing. You take the winner out of that one. And then the 10 lap the 10 lap dash right there. And you have your winner at that one. So that's really the best, I guess, mode, if you can, is to get to the front and just win, ideally, the first stage. And again, the feel for the Open is a really, really good feel with this car. I think that's the big difference to where it and there's not a lot of time on the track for these guys, so they're going to be learning the entire time. I mean, Eric Jones is another guy that I think about that's been real damn racy for Petty, and I mean, this could be a chance. Go out, and he is very capable of winning the dadgum All-Star race. I
mean, they just haven't had the finishes to go with their performance. We've seen it with other drivers before. They've been running in the top 10 almost every race this year, but the finishes just hadn't been there. Get caught up in a late race accident. Probably could have won Talladega a couple of weeks ago when he was trying to be running in real good. Had a chance to run really well there at Darlington. Got caught up in somebody else's mess. Mm-hmm. The top four qualifiers here for the Open. You got Tyler Reddick, who won yesterday, got a really good hot rod. Daniel Suarez, who could be kind of a light bulb that needs to go off and light the way there for NASCAR. You got Ricky Stenhouse Jr. and Eric Jones. That is your top 4 of the qualifiers. Any one of those 3 of the 4 can go in, and some of those guys are actually up on the list for the most popular driver to get in.
And you've got those guys right there. I mean, you can say arguably all 4 of those guys should have won a race by now. Because you go back and you look at some of these things, and I mean, they have been. I mean, Tyler Reddick, for crying out loud, that
should have won Bristol.
Yeah, that one there. I mean, you can't get much closer than that. Suarez at COTA was just really good, and we've seen good signs out of him. And Stenhouse, while he started out, kind of stumbled out of the gate a little bit there. He's lit it up pretty nicely, and Eric Jones, and then you got Chris Buescher there behind him, and Justin Haley. I mean, Justin Haley's a guy where it's like people look up and like, who's 31?
Your colleagues already got one car in the All-Star race.
Yeah, you've got some really good drivers there, and think about that right there. I mean, let's say we got the 3 or 4 as it's going to be. Just in those 6 right there, there's at least 2 of them that ain't going to make it. And they are all capable of competing in the All-Star race.
Yeah, they really are. And I really think that, to me, it becomes down to Tyler Reddick and Daniel Suarez. We've been talking about all season, even a little bit last year, which one of those 2 guys was going to be the first guy to break out and win and get their first win.
Yeah.
And there's been times that Suarez has been considerably better. There's been a lot of times that Reddick has been considerably better. Now you get a chance to see them race head-to-head in the Open without some of the extra overhead of some of these other cars and bigger teams. This is going to be a great race because of the fact you get to see which one of those 2 guys goes first, and you get the wild card in Ricky Stenhouse Jr.
And I think the big thing, I mean, leading into this, what we were touching on at the first part of this was nobody will be on the track before them. There's not going to be any practice. There's not any qualifying. There's not going to be any of that stuff happening. So when these guys go barreling off into turn 1 for the start of that race, I mean, God forbid something happens and you wipe those 6 out, and it's like, holy smoke, now what? So there's a lot of
Cody could make the All-Star race.
Dude, I mean, that's the design of this whole thing, and that's really why I think. I mean, we can joke about it. We can say not quite as many millions or whatever, but this thing really has brought itself around to where it does allow the thought of it.
Yeah, it does.
At least, I mean, we can make crazy predictions all the time. I mean, you look at the rest of the pack right there. I mean, Ty Dillon is in the backside of that Open race, but watching him race for fun at the Coliseum,
he did it. He surely did.
So that is going to be fun. That is going to be a lot of fun to watch, and it's going to be a great prelude moving into this thing. And I do think this is going to be. I mean, I'm not going to sit here and tell you it's going to be the most monumental All-Star race ever, but I do think that the possibilities of this being what people don't expect are pretty good.
This is going to be the best All-Star race.
What
since
they don't think, it's going to be good.
This is going to be the best All-Star race since 2013.
I agree.
And you know why 2013 was a really good All-Star race?
Is that?
Because we had that brand new Gen 6 car.
That's exactly right. That's exactly right. And the thing about it is, there's a lot of discussions where folks are still talking about with the car as it's going to develop or whatever's going to happen. And here's the thing: you're going to continue. You're going to continue to get better. You're going to continue to find ways to do things with this car. But I think it's been very apparent to many of us and many deep insiders in the industry where it's NASCAR one day with the dirt race. You're not going to have, well, let's take out the windshield.
Yeah.
Or you come here. Let's take out the what's the thing on the back?
The
diffuser.
Yeah.
Let's alter the diffuser. Or let's do this to the suspension. They're not going to do that.
But they've done it before in the old generations of the cars where they ran. That's where they get the double file restarts, right? They did the cone last year.
Right. But I think that's where it's been, to me, the detriment. We see this at short tracks all the time. And to our short track friends that are checking in right now, don't be beating us up later. You know damn well that what happens is it's like you go ask for this much, and in a year it's this. Mm-hmm. And that's not what they're going to let this car become.
Well, I think part of it is, some of it is structural. I mean, like we said, we've seen it to where that's where we get the double file restarts. They used to do it at the All-Star race only. Everybody liked it. The feedback was good. They came through and they decided to have everybody, all the races, do the double file restarts. They did it with the Choose cone a couple of years ago. That now we have the Choose line, more than just having it fun at the All-Star race, just a little bit of annex on pit road and stuff like that. But we've seen them when they tried the aero package that this car is based off of was done at an All-Star race 3 or 4 years ago when they changed the complete aero package and everything else, and that turned into what became a really good 1.5 mile package for the Gen 6 car, which has really determined how the scope and the direction of this new Gen 7 car.
And I really think that unfortunately, what you're saying there is you have to make, and it seems like that's been the case, you do have to make this car very raceable on these tracks because this is what we have.
Bread and butter right here.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, we all go ape shit. No, sorry. over going to Daytona and Talladega and road courses and all that. I mean, it's a very good road course car, I think, but I mean, this is the meat of your schedule. I mean, it's like you've got like in a horse race, you've got the posts out there. Mm-hmm. That's what you got with Daytona, Talladega, and Atlanta now, where every now and then you hit one of those. But for the most part, in your Derby, you're running this. And this is where you need to be good because, quite frankly, this is where, for one, people haven't been coming to these. Number two, the TV ratings have been horrible. And number three, the racing just hasn't been very good.
Yeah. Well,
gotta watch out. We're in the media center. Can't say it too loud.
Can't say it too loud.
You get a knock on the door. We'll be right out the door.
Yeah, right. They'll be dragging us by the neck.
Yank that lanyard right off. Get out of here.
But I think that
they know it.
I know, and they've been trying to do it. Obviously, the fan amenities. Let's talk about what they've done here so far. They've put in new seats. Where they're a little bit wider. They've come through and they've taken out the row in front of you to give you a little bit more room. Also give you a place to put your stuff, your phone, your sunglasses, your beer, all of that good stuff on the row in front of you. And then they've also, looks like they're adding in a couple of different bars that I saw coming in, both behind the grandstands. They got one, we were talking about it this morning.
They know how to get to the audience, don't they?
They're going to put in right in the length of the middle, right in the middle of the grandstand, going to put a full-length bar that goes the length of the front straightaway.
Ain't no Starbucks here. There's no Starbucks. There's no juice bar there. There's none of that.
Yeah, none of that here.
Straight to the booze. But you, again, man, you got good points, dude. You know what's going to come out of that missing row.
That's right.
You know what's going to come out of the missing row. We'll probably hear it today, I'm sure.
Yeah, if you get with the missing row, even if you get a good crowd here, and you're missing every other row on TV, the haters are going to hate and talk about how less attended it is and all that. Keep in mind, this place the front stretch used to hold 110,000 people. They've since added tarps like most tracks have and kind of condensed the corners in a little bit and moved up a couple of rows and turn 4 with some more tarps and sponsorship banners and stuff like that. So the place ended up holding about 85 to 90.
Only.
Now you've taken the seats out. This place is going to hold about 75,000 people. That's still pretty big. That's the size of, what does Jerry World hold, 80?
Oh man, that thing is like 99. It's up. I think it's up over 100. But that's that.
That's a multi-purpose facility. That's
that place. But and the whole thing is, I mean, in that boom back then, and when all these racetracks came to pass, I mean that's the one thing. I mean Had NASCAR not had that 90s boom, we wouldn't be here at this place.
No, they wouldn't even have thought about going to different markets like that.
Absolutely not. I mean, this place wouldn't be here. And hell, I guess we'd still be racing at North Wilkesboro, I guess. But it was a time and a place to where you didn't. I mean, you didn't have this, and you didn't have what we're doing. I mean, there's things where you can capture this and you can ingest this sport so many different ways where people did want to come to the racetrack. Mm-hmm. Quite frankly, people don't want to come to the racetrack anymore. I mean, it's, we see the debate in short track racing all the time, with all of our different streaming platforms, with Racing America and Flow Sports and with Race on Texas, is it a detriment that they're keeping people from the racetrack? Well, they're probably keeping people from the racetrack.
They are.
Hell, I'd rather watch at home.
Well, the beer's
lot of times.
The beer's cheaper at home, the food's cheaper at home, and the TV in 4K that you get right now the TV coverage is better. And
it's really, and that's, people just don't want to, it's the same across any platform. I mean, whether we're here or whether we're at a short track. I mean, I know that NASCAR gets the beat up part, and IndyCar. Formula One doesn't seem to have a problem getting people there.
A little different product.
That's exactly right. But this is, I think the place is built now you fill it now, you're doing real damn good.
Well, real good. And they're outdrawing a lot of stuff on TV, and they're outdrawing the attendance has been really well. The race has been very well attended, except for, we talked about it yesterday, with Kansas being a little lower than what a lot of people thought, being the mile-and-a-half track. I don't think attendance is going to be record-breaking here, by no means tonight.
No.
But it's one of those where, like, as far as TV ratings go, TV ratings are outdoing the NBA, maybe not going head-to-head with the NBA playoffs. That's a little different when you get to the conference finals. That's when more people start paying attention to the conference finals than the finals itself. But you can't compete with the juggernaut of football, whether that be NFL football or college football. Yeah. You can't compete with that. But NASCAR's doing fairly well with the TV stuff, with all the other sports.
Yeah, and I was actually thinking about that as we drove up here this morning, because it's like it never fails for here. I mean, when you've got the Cowboys playing, you've had Cowboy games, for the fall race or whatever the case may be. All of that going on. The Mavericks game 3 here tonight. Mm-hmm. So it's like, you can't forecast that when the schedule comes out. But I do think this is a good landing place for the All-Star race. I'm still on the fence about formats, and I like the short track argument, but still, I mean, when people say, have it at a short track, and people talk about people not coming to the All-Star race, if you get 30,000 here, that's hard at a short track.
It's real hard.
That's way hard at a short track.
You're not going to get that at North Wilkesboro. You're not going to get that at Nashville.
Right. And you got people rolling up in here. I mean, you've got to have all of this. I mean, all of this stuff in here that we don't need very much to produce this show. But I mean, think about all the other stuff that you have to have that. It's got to be at a place like this. And it's got to be at a show palace. I mean, for crying out loud. I mean, for TV, for one thing, you can't have it at a short track. Lights are all dim.
Yeah,
but
you have to use that $300 million from the state of North Carolina to redo the lights at North Wilkesboro.
Dude, isn't that awesome?
Every track, not just Wilkesboro, all of them got it.
That's a damn shame. You Texas dirt tracks, you should be raising hell and say, hey, where's our federally mandated money for racetracks? They'd be like, what's a racetrack?
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. But it's a good spot. I mean, it's a good spot. I think the potential is here to have a good race. You get to the All-Star race, so stage 1, 20 laps, the winner's going to advance, all the green, yellow, all of that counts as leader at the end of stage 1, eligible to participate in the NASCAR All-Star race. Or wait a minute, I'm sorry, that's the open.
Yeah, you're doing open.
I'm over here all messed up. Here we go, 25 laps. Stage 1 winner starts on the pole in the final stage. So that's a big coup to win the first one, as long as he finishes 15th or better in stages 2 and 3. So you can't go out there and cool your jets. I like that.
They got outsmarted a couple of years ago when Jimmy Johnson and Jeff Gordon and Dale Earnhardt Jr. did it. Just laid back because they were guaranteed spots. That's why they added in that little asterisk about 15th or better.
Yep, good stuff. Stage number 2, 25 laps again. These are Saturday night features. Saturday night features around this place. Stage 2 starts second in the final stage, as long as you finish 15th or better in stage 3. Same. Now that's genius. That's smart. Still, I'd have said 10th.
Yeah, well.
You might
15th. I mean, there's 15th is almost the top half.
Yeah, you might get your stuff tore up. Stage number 3, 25 laps. Stage 3 winner starts third in the final stage. No stipulation there. Just starts third.
That's good.
Yeah,
I'm okay with that.
because you're going to the final stage.
You're going to the final stage.
Yeah. And in there, so let's jump over here. So this is where I'm a little confused. So you've got the pit stop competition in there. You're going to have each team must pit and perform a 4-tire stop. The team with the shortest time on pit road wins the pit crew award, and the driver will start 4th in the final stage as long as he finishes 15th or better in stage 3. That's where people go a little bananas. It's like, hell, I'm confused. Sort of.
Yeah, I mean, I can see where they're still trying to incorporate the pit crews, but I don't think it's needed for the actual All-Star race itself. I liked it better when you factor in the pit crews to get into the All-Star race, because really the product on the racetrack is what's going to matter the most. You don't want to see the guy that's winning end up hitting their toe on a pit stop, and then having to start 6th or 7th and not be able to pass.
Mm-hmm. So let's speaking of the pit stops, so let's talk about that. And we've got the graphic pulled up there. Kyle Busch will be on the pole. Little bit of a different scenario. They drag out a drag racing Christmas tree and so forth. And you had all of that. You had guys practicing burnouts and so forth. And that's really how this was set, where light turns green. You have to get yourself out of there. You can't red light. You make a lap around and so forth. And like you said, great idea, but it was.
Execution needed to be a little better.
Tweak it up a little bit, and we talked about it. These cars don't not out of the hole quite as good. Just with the horsepower and with the way these cars are built, I like the idea. I like the something different to try. I mean, it looked really cool. I mean, I liked how they put the tree out there and so forth for the idea of it. But like we both agree on. Let's go back to the whole thing. Get them a couple of laps out there and let them just haul the mail down pit road. No speed limit. Come in there, let the pit crews do their work. Go back out on the track. Do it that way. That's
the way it should be.
Mm-hmm.
That's the way. That was the most. As everybody we talk to now still says, that was the most fun All-Star races when they came through. It was so cool watching them come down at 120, 130 miles an hour down pit road, down to zero. Man. Boom, there comes the pit crews, and they take off as fast as they can, do it all over again, a combination of about 3 laps, and that was it. That was exactly the best qualifying format.
That's exactly right. To where I think this really it put it more into the what these guys do exceptionally well. They drive really, really fast, and they execute really fast pit stops. Where to this right here, it was there were a lot of different factors, and again, I would hear the cars last night, and they just sounded like they were utterly struggling to get out of the hole, and it's they're not designed to do that, but again, you're testing the waters. You're trying something. I'm going to venture to guess, with what we've seen from NASCAR in the past, they're going to do it in a different fashion next time.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think they listened to feedback. The feedback was not as positive as we saw online as it probably could have been. But like we said, good concept, just a little bit better execution, and it would have been. I still would rather seen all 20 of them go.
Me too.
To try to do it, if you're going to spend that much time and money, and maybe back them up a little bit further on pit road to have them slide down into the, just have the start finish line and have them slide down there towards the end.
Yeah, a little bit better run at it. Final stage, 50 laps. So you're going to have a longer run right there. You'll have 25, 25, 25, 50. Stage, obviously, like we talked about, stage 1 winner is going to start first. Stage 2 will start second. Stage 3 starts third. The pit stop competition winner will start fourth. With that's maybe where one of the underliers can just crack off a good pit stop and get themselves in a good spot. If there is no natural caution between laps 15 and 25 of that final stage, they'll call for the All-Star caution. So that's going to happen right there.
It's not a bad idea.
Yeah, it's not a bad idea at all, because that goes back to what we were just talking about, is we've watched so many times here to where somebody just, boom, gone. Don't see them until the end of the stage or for one of those mystery caution flags or whatever may happen with some of that. So I like that element right there, but I hope, and again, I don't like to see stuff get tore up. I know it adds to the excitement, but if whatever happens right there, I do hope between lap 25 and lap 50 that we get 2 or 3 cautions. Mm-hmm. I think that is going to put us in a much better position to get this finish that the track and the race so desperately need.
I think so. I mean, I think the Phantom caution, All-Star caution, whatever you want to see, some people call it a gimmick caution. I think it's a reset caution, because it makes that final stage 25 laps in the main event for the final stage for your all the money for the $1 million. I think that's a good thing to have it at that point in the race. That's why they call it 15 to 25. You probably see it on lap about 20 if they don't have a natural caution already.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I totally agree. I mean, I think that's something that's going to it at least they have an opportunity. They have an opportunity to do something. And now, I was talking to someone during the week where they were like, well, wouldn't it be cool if NASCAR had a disclaimer in there to where they could throw something in, if it's lacking that pizzazz that we want it to have. I don't know exactly what you could do besides have a caution.
That's it. Instead, put cones on the backstretch and make them do a running chicane down the backstretch.
Yeah, run to lap 40 and then throw a red flag and invert the top 10. But I don't necessarily think that's a very good idea as well. I'm dead set on the point that just with the competition that we've seen and what we've watched the car do throughout the year, that it's going to provide us the opportunity to really step this thing up. I'm holding out hope that that's what's going to happen.
I really do. I think it's an opportunity. The race is going to be timed just about right, other than going head to head against the NBA final or NBA conference finals. It has an
Dallas.
Yeah, it has the opportunity to do fairly well with ratings. Now, granted, the Easter show was by itself on Fox, on Network Fox. That makes a difference on there. But I just think that the ingredients are there to be a decent race. The question is, do we need a decent All-Star race or do we need a damn good All-Star race? We've had some, the All-Star race has been so lackluster. A decent All-Star race would be good, but a damn good one would be better for everybody. Texas Motor Speedway, NASCAR itself, and the All-Star race, and the TV partners would love it too.
And I think it's not only you and I that are really hinging all this hope on what the car has produced, that it's going to give us a damn good one, because it really has. It has given us those good races. And I don't know, man. I think that is a scenario where a good one, a good, entertaining one.
Entertaining is good. That's that's what an all-star event's supposed to be. It's supposed to be entertaining.
Yeah, entertaining in the sense to where you have good competition. Yeah, a little bit of trading paint and so forth. I think that's something that would help a lot. You get pushing and shoving. That really helps you moving forward. To attract more people, especially being in a primetime spot tonight, because that's really what's going to hone the people in. When you had the end of, go back and you name the race where you had a little bit of that controversy at the end of that really did the next week get some new eyeballs on and get you a good run during the week. And that's really a lot of what these races. It's so odd that it's going to end tonight, but you want people talking about it Thursday.
An exciting finish can make up for a lackluster race.
Yeah, that's right.
The whole that one hot summer night way back in 1992, 30 years ago, where Kyle Petty became the only person that anybody remembers finishing second in the All-Star race when they crashed with Davey Allison coming to the check flag. The rest of that race, that's the only reason that they talk about that finish, because the rest of that race really wasn't all that good, but they still show those highlights every single All-Star race when it comes time around to promote the All-Star race. So a lackluster race could be made up by a really exciting finish, and that's what we saw in the truck race on Friday night. It's kind of what we saw yesterday in the Xfinity race with
a lot of bent stuff,
a lot of tore up stuff in the Xfinity race. But the last couple of laps were really entertaining, and so it has the potential. The ingredients are still there, minus the track being a little hot and a little slick for being a really good race.
Yeah. You can, the most famous race of them all, or one of, you can go back and watch the 79 Daytona 500. And it had some good stuff. Hell, it ran 13 laps under yellow, for crying out loud, to start. It had some, had some good moments. But go back and watch it. It was a lot of chasing each other. And then you had the last lap. And that's really, we see it with short track races all the time. We talk about it at our wits' end, to where we've been at short track races where there are 24 cars, and it is horrible, terrible race. And then you go back and you watch another one with 7, and the racing is so damn good that you say, that was a great race. Doesn't matter about the quantity, it's the quality.
The last, I don't even remember the last really good All-Star race I remember watching. I do remember, to me, until they went to this elimination format, the last race that was great from start to finish was the 92 Hooters 500 at Atlanta, when they had 5 or 6 guys going for the championship.
That race
went from green flag to checkered flag. That race did everything it needed to do. Now they went to the elimination format where you got 4 guys that you have to watch.
Yeah.
Carl Edwards versus Tony Stewart in 2011 was really entertaining because you had the 2 of those guys, the drama. But this race, while it doesn't necessarily need to go from start to finish, the finish needs to be good to make up for the rest of it.
That's the whole thing, because there are going to be parts, and I mean that's really the underlying thing. Is we go to the racetracks this year, and we don't know. We don't know what to expect. I mean, we've seen little bits of practice and qualifying, whatever that was last night, but we don't know what to expect, and we can go through the grid here in just a minute, but everybody's a player. Everybody's a player. And it, like you said, truck race was good. Xfinity race was good. Truck races here are usually pretty good. Hell, truck races everywhere are good. I mean, there's no doubt about that. But we've seen Xfinity races that same thing, where they've lacked. But what they're doing here, we were joking around about all the PJ1, everything all over the racetrack. This surface, you look at it and it's like, what's going on over there, or whatever. It I don't know if I'm definitely going to say, hey man, it's finally working, but they're on to something, because it really seems to be, from what I've seen this weekend, with what they attempted to do with changing the banking over there versus over here. I think maybe they've got the product now that's really going to make it work.
Well, I mean, they've done everything but completely redo the track. They're not gonna redo it here like they did at Atlanta, because Atlanta needed to be repaved. This track, it needed to be redone back when they did it 4 or 5 years ago, just because of the weepers and the age of the pavement on the track. I don't see him coming back in and reconfiguring. I see him putting in the money where it needs to be on the fan amenity side, kind of upgrading that, because that's been lackluster for the last 15 years or so. But now that they've done everything. They've changed the car. The car was designed to run good on 1.5 miles. Let's make sure that in Vegas, because we can't really count Atlanta because it was a super speedway type package. Kansas last week was okay. I mean, I've seen better Kansas races, but it was still good comparatively to what it used to be. Vegas was a great race. I thought Vegas was a great race with this car. Now you got a couple more races with the 1.5 mile package on it. It still has the nice ingredients into the Witch's Bowl to make up some really good stuff. If they got to put some hocus pocus in there to make the race exciting and fantastic, I'm okay with that.
And I think what could finally happen here, because if you really go back and look at it, they were changing stuff all the time. It's like, change this, change that, whatever. Now you start to hear, I heard several times yesterday where they were talking about the bumps over here in 3 and 4. Now you got bumps, and you've got the changing in the banking. It's been left alone. They haven't done anything, other than taking care of the place, trying to enhance the grooves and all that. Maybe now, because we saw it at Fontana, to where they were going to scrape that place up and turn it into a short track or whatever the case was going to be. Well, let's go try it one more time.
Best race of the year.
Best race of the year. And, the thing was what you were talking about with Atlanta. Everybody loved Atlanta because it was beat up, it was rough, and it produced that kind of race. Maybe that's what happens here now, because they've let it age a little bit, if that's the right thing to say. I mean, maybe it's going to find its stride, and I hope it does. I like coming here twice a year.
Yeah, I really do. I mean, back in the day, used to come a long time. Used to come a couple of times. So it throwing in Indy there in the middle. We talked to Jaden yesterday. He says IndyCar's probably coming back. Which they need to here. They have all the, and when we come through, we forget, I think we take for granted how long this place has been here. When we went to the media center this morning to kind of get ready for this show, you got to see all the plaques and all the stuff on the wall, how many years they've been racing, and what celebrities have been here, who won what race in what year, and the sponsors, and you forget how long this place has been here. It has produced some really good racing in the past. It's also produced a lot of snoozers, but I think that everything is setting up to be a really, really good race coming up tonight for this All-Star Shootout.
I agree, and I really think that this place really finding its legs and becoming that track that it's capable of being. I think for us in Texas now, with the correlation with COTA, and I would have never thought. We talked about this back in March. I'd have never thought that we'd be sitting there, hosting radio shows for a NASCAR race at COTA. That was the most furthest, far-fetched idea ever. But think about you get this place hitting its stride, and you get a really good fan experience and race over there, because people want to see that kind of thing over there. Austin has its own little niche over there. Fort Worth, Dallas. I mean, these are great markets. And then drop that Formula One race in over there from time to time, once a year, and IndyCar gets really good here again. Great race here back in March or April, whenever that was, and I think Texas is in a good place with the big tracks.
I think so. I mean, what's really funny if you think about it, how there's so much of a difference between Austin and Fort Worth. And yet everybody just assumes that everybody in Texas rides horses, has cows in the backyard, and wears cowboy boots and a cowboy hat.
You know, if you really think about that, I was thinking about this back in March. Honestly, for the quote unquote race fan, what we would consider a stereotype of a race fan, the Austin race fans, they should be here.
Yeah,
this is more their. What would we say? This is more their speed over here.
Yeah.
This is kind of J.R. Ewing, highfalutin, caviar, wine, and over there, that's the good old boys over there, you would think.
Yeah, it's a little opposite from what it should be.
It's totally. The roles are totally flipped, and I mean, I could only think, imagine if you got one in Houston. You had a really good, one of these in Houston.
I just settled for a really good short track that stays open in Houston. Really,
you got that right, and one in San Antonio too would be unbelievable.
That'd be great too.
And I really think that this one and COTA, I don't know, dude. There's part of me that always thinks that you get a good NASCAR, IndyCar, Formula One, whatever. You get a good base for that, and maybe short track will work. But it don't. It's night and day. It's night and day. I've had so many people that'll go to a NASCAR race here, and then we'll go to one of our dirt or asphalt races, and they're like, "What is this?"
Yeah, it's a completely different crowd.
Yeah, it's like same concept. You're going in a circle, but why are the races so short? Why you stop so much? Why is there an intermission?
Yeah. You've been there. So when back in the day when you used to run San Antonio Speedway, whether or not the super late models needed to have a pit stop or not because they're trying to save tires. Damn good well announcing like I did. As soon as the fans heard that air gun fire up, like the little gophers in the cubicles for that Geico commercial.
Yeah.
As soon as that gun fired up, then people picked their heads up and they were looking like, "Oh, what's going on? This is just like what it is on TV."
Yeah.
Here comes the guns. Boom, boom, boom. Zoom, 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 and they were done. They loved it.
Yeah. Exactly. But yeah, I think we're onto something here. I think that this All-Star race could be a blessing here tonight, and we'll take a look and see how that hopefully does shake out. So Kyle Busch on the pole as he wins that. He's got Blaney there next to him, and I think you can go through that list right there. And like we said, I mean, I don't really see anybody there where you can say, oh, no, I'm going to discount this person. I mean, all the way back. All the way into row 9 and 10. I think you got guys that if they hit on the right thing tonight and conditions play themselves out, I mean, you're going to have a lot of luck. No doubt about it. But I don't think you really look at that entry list or that starting lineup and say, nope. There's more yeps in there.
There's more possibilities in there, especially when you get somebody.
Possibilities, yeah.
Denny Hamlin, who's starting 16th. His program was actually really good last weekend there when you get together up at Kansas. So you got some good, strong. The one that I think is, and I hate to say it because I'm one of his leading fans, is Keselowski starting 18th.
Yeah. That's
one of those, probably nots.
Yeah.
Just because their program is just not where it needs to be. I bet he wishes he was still back at Penske now.
Well, and that's just the commitment right there for him. I mean, he knew what he was undertaking. Maybe he wasn't quite sure it was going to be this much, but I mean, when you stumble out of the gate and you stub your toe, and I think that to that point, I think this is one of the things now to where that's a great point right there to where that team figured out a limitation in something with this car, and they went in there and tried to find something that was going to help them, and unfortunately, they got busted. And they're not going to recover this year.
No, they're not.
Not going to recover. I mean, it's for them. I mean, this is going to be a very expensive R&D year for that team.
Very expensive.
Mm-hmm.
And I was looking at the times. Like the times for the pole speed, you can't add that up because of the fact you had the pit stops in it.
Yeah.
You're seeing that an average speed of 189 miles an hour. I'm more interested in the practice speeds that they were doing. You had guys like William Byron was doing exceptionally well in practice. Kurt Busch had some momentum. He was doing exceptionally well in that short 20-minute practice. So there's an opportunity for guys to show the momentum Ross Chastain has shown. I mean, he's a legit player tonight. Joey Logano, as aggressive as he is, starting right smack in the middle of the pack. It's checkers or wreckers for him. Penske's got some extra cars. He don't care.
Like we said on the drive up here, if you're Fox, if you're TMS, if you're NASCAR, you want to get to the final stage with 5 to go, and you want him in the top 3 because he will do whatever he needs to do.
That's right. For $1 million, he definitely, I'd move somebody for $1 million.
All of these guys need to tonight. I mean, for the good of the industry, all of these guys need to have that mindset. I mean, that's really the thing. I mean, think about this. I mean, if we get into a situation with this, I mean, let's just say we get to the end and you've got Logano, Kyle Busch, I don't know, Ricky Stenhouse. Let's say you get some of those just those personalities, those magical, those button pushers that we talk about. Let's say you get 4 or 5 of those coming down to the end of this thing. Man, you were writing stuff in the history book right there.
Yeah, it'd be a crazy race to have.
Could be one cold night.
Could be one cold night, one exciting night for sure.
Yeah, and Kurt Busch right now, we're seeing a good resurgence there with him. But of course, you can't discount Larson. I mean, I don't call him young money for no reason. I mean, this is where
he's going for 3 straight.
I know.
He won 2019, suspended for 2020, won the 2021. Now he's got a chance to do it in 2022.
This is this is his kind of race. I mean, this has his name written all over it, and this is where you see him do things where it's like maybe he wins stage 1, but something happens and he can't run 15th, and he can't start on the pole, and he starts in the back and comes all the way to the front, and
it's going to be exciting.
And I really think it would be a good scenario like that. A couple of good scenarios. If you get an Allmendinger or you get somebody like that, one of those guys, not the. It's a household name, but it's not a Kyle Busch. It's not a Martin Truex. Mm-hmm. One of those guys wins, or you get somebody that just won out of the open, or has some sort of just massive undertaking to win, and they win. A good story.
Well, the good story. We almost forgot to talk about it. Ryan Blaney went through inspection twice. He lost his car chief. Now he doesn't lose his starting position.
That's right.
But he loses his pit selection, and that's massive in a race like this if you're working about your crew chief or worried about your crew members having to make up the difference in the middle of a race.
Yeah, and you mentioned Denny Hamlin. I mean, maybe this is where we see Denny Hamlin, come to life. And I mean, Toyota, the work is paying off. I mean, it really seems like they're back on the upswing again. But I just think that there's going to be a lot of stories that are going to be happening throughout this race. I mean, you'll have the beginning of it with the 4 drivers that are going to transfer over. Then you start, like we said, there's not a lot of time on the racetrack. The weather conditions here, if you're just checking in, it's 70 some odd degrees right now, where it's been in the high 90s throughout the weekend here at TMS. So it's going to be a very cool racetrack. The racetrack temperature is going to be a lot different. The cool conditions are going to affect the performance of the car. I mean, there's a lot that's going to factor into that. So when this race fires off, it'll be cooler and not a lot of time on the track, not a lot of fresh rubber on the racetrack. So it's gonna be an ever evolving story as we move through these stages tonight.
Yeah, somebody's gonna hit it and run good in each stage, but I don't think it's gonna end up being the same person.
Yeah, and it really comes down to we as a sport, we just need a good race. Mm-hmm. Just need a good race, not bits and pieces of it. These races are all the same. There's bits and pieces of good. There's bits and pieces of bad. But we need more good. We need more excitement. Need more excitement.
This race needs to deliver more so this year than it has in a long time.
It really does. It really does. I mean, does it need to be the Charlotte race? No. But it better damn well not be some of those Charlotte ones.
Yeah.
or the other Charlotte ones.
Yeah. It doesn't need to be a snoozer.
Right, and it needs to have storylines, and I think that we do see that. And it's so hard to pick a winner. I mean, it's so hard to pick a winner because there's a lot that has to happen, and I truly do think you're going to have somebody that comes out of the open and is going to be a player. I think so. It's good stuff. So the rest of the day. 4:30 it will be the Open, and all of this is on FS1.
All of it, just park it on FS1. They're actually probably having the replay of qualifying right now on FS1, so just park it there. You could check in with NBC, I think, here coming up at the last top of the hour at 3 o'clock was working with Indy 500 qualifying for the top 12.
Oh, nice.
So they're still working on that. Don't have an official pole sitter for the Indy 500. Jimmy Johnson in practice was 5th. So we went from 6th on the board to 5th during practice. I don't know if
Arenas VK still quickest?
Dixon was the quickest.
Oh, man. Indy's going to be fun.
It's going to be a lot of fun.
Indy's going to be a lot of fun.
This battle for the front row is going to shape out, and it's only going to be the guys that have a chance to win it. Some of these other guys, they're not going to try to. If you're 10th, 9th, 8th, right in there, there's no reason to push it, right? Whether you go the fastest speed or the slowest speed, you're still going to be 8th, 9th, or 10th.
Yeah, and one bad move there, trying to push the envelope at Indianapolis, and your 500 is
done.
done because you tear that primary up and you're not going to have carburation day, I guess, here at some point, Friday. But you're not going to have a lot of time to get your stuff together. So, yeah, you need to be content with if you're sixth and below, just ride this thing out.
Yep, that's right.
That is a long race. Brand new point leader in Formula One with Max Verstappen, who said that he was about to catch fire there. So, man, I'm looking forward to next weekend as well. I mean, the Big Three. Cannot beat that.
Big Three. Going to start the day with mimosas at Monaco. Going to sit down and enjoy the fresh barbecue there at Indy when it kicks on. What, Indy dropped the green at 11-ish?
Yeah, at 11:30, 11, yeah, something like that.
And if you've ever wanted to watch an introduction, you've got to watch the introduction and the opening ceremonies for the Indianapolis 500. We've talked about it before. We'll talk about it potentially next week. Spoiler.
Yeah.
But
you heard it here first.
If you're into introductions and you're into pomp and circumstance and all that, you got to watch the introductions for the Indianapolis 500.
The Indy pre-race is something to where just with everything that goes into that, even as a casual observer, there can be something there that will make you chop onions.
Yeah.
There are just things that happen, and it's like unbelievable.
The video packages for the Indy 500 was great. When NBC took over all of it. We didn't know how good it was going to be, but when they took over that package, boom, it was great. And maybe the back home in Indiana, I'm still not wild about that, especially with Jim Nabors passing. They probably should have done something else. But it's still going to be great. If you never watched it, try to watch it after the Formula One race. I'm pretty sure the Formula One race is going to be on ESPN.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure it will be. I don't think it's going to be on ABC this year like it was before.
Well, maybe. It
could be.
And it's, dude, like I was telling you yesterday, I still go to ABC looking for Indy 500. Yesterday when I was looking for qualifying, I went straight to KView Austin. I'm like, it's got to be on here. No, man, it's on NBC. But, and they pull out all the stops for Indianapolis. So that lineup will be set here shortly. And then, of course, like we said, Max Verstappen, your new point leader with Formula One. But this right here, 7 o'clock, and this is going to be quite the pomp and circumstance here too. There's going to be a lot going on. There's a lot to do here for the fans with the fan zone and everything that's going on. So just sit back and relax and enjoy the race and hope that everything that we're preaching here about the competitiveness, the wow, that was cool moments. Hopefully that happens in the All-Star race because that really has been the story that we've talked about at length here throughout the weekend on Revved Up ATX and now here on this pre-race show is it's like when you have a man and a woman or a couple, as I'll say these days, when you have a couple that they're just so, they've been through so much, they're just so lonely. They're two souls that need each other so bad. This race and this track. Yeah,
Monaco, 8 o'clock in the morning on ESPN.
Absolutely.
Sunday.
Good stuff right there, man. That is going to be an action-packed weekend. And, of course, there could be some sort of pre-race there to get you ready for all of that.
Might even talk about a drag strip coming to Central Texas.
Oh, man.
Rumors are everywhere.
I tell you, man, it's funny, all the things that you hear when you head to the old racetrack and you start running into all these people that just like to gossip. And we're right there in the middle. We're like the people at the grocery store. Did you hear about whatever? That's what we do here.
That's right. That's what makes it so much fun.
Hell, they come find us though. Hey, did you hear about so and so, or did you hear about this?
This is in your backyard. Did you hear about it?
Yeah. Actually,
maybe.
No, we hadn't heard about that. Good stuff. Check out the race. It is the NASCAR All-Star Race from Texas Motor Speedway. This has been your pre-race show, All-Star Open pre-race show. Bobby and Rodney, we gone. Check out the race. Enjoy it. It's going to be good stuff.